Okay, so it is day one at Paris Air Show. This is our first interview this year. Looks like it's going to be a really hot and busy day. So the first of many interviews we're going to be doing over the next 3 days. I'm delighted to introduce Mukund Karanjikar, who is the Chief Executive of CleanJoule. Welcome, Mukund, to ABN Cast. Thanks for inviting us onto your stand.
Oh, thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Although actually it's not your stand, you've got a part of the stand. We're actually on the Utah stand in an American area, a US area of the show. So just explain, what you're based in Utah as a company. So whereabouts are you based exactly?
We are in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Okay.
That's where the company is headquartered. And we come to these air shows as part of a state delegation. Then that's part of the American Pavilion.
Yeah, fine, okay. And so, CleanJoule, tell us, the answer is in the name, I'm sure, but tell us what CleanJoule, what are you doing and what do you hear this week talking to people about?
Absolutely, yeah. So we are a full performance sustainable aviation fuel producer and technology developer. By full performance, it does not need to be blended with petroleum.
Okay.
So the current state of the art is you have to have 50% blend from petroleum, 50% SAF, as they call it, so Sustainable Aviation Fuel, which is essentially identical set of hydrocarbons produced from biomass as the feedstock.
Yep.
And that's the sustainability piece of it.
Yep.
If you look at IATA's projections, and what would it take to go net zero, you have to have 65% contribution to come from using SAF. Rest of the 35% contribution comes from other pieces of aviation business, but the 65% must come from use of SAF.
Yeah.
That's what we produce. We are 100% full performance. Our mission is essentially make SAF affordable and available to everyone, everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Our investors include 3 ultra-low-cost airlines, and that tell you something of our cost structure as well in terms of efficiency. And those airlines are Wizz, that's in Europe, Volaris, that's in Mexico City, Mexico, and Frontier, they are headquartered in Denver, Colorado in the US.
Okay, that's interesting for us, obviously, with low-cost and regional airline business. We'll go into a bit of that in a minute. Let's go back onto the fuel. So the fuel you're developing is where does it come from? How do you develop? What's the process you use to make the fuel in the first place?
Absolutely, yeah. So we start with biomass. So you think about agriculture residue, you think about forestry residue, you think about some of the energy crops that people talk about. So everything as a feedstock that can be sustainably produced on the planet. So don't drill holes in the earth to take out the black stuff.
It's a mixture of material that is a waste product, is it?
Yes.
Plus stuff that you're growing specifically for fuel.
With the objective of making fuels from them, absolutely.
Yeah. Because one of the things about being sustainable is, and I've heard IATA say this, is you can't just use land that would have been used for other purposes, for food, because that's not in itself, that degrades the sustainability of it. So
that's correct, absolutely. And so the research, the counterbalancing research and development work people do in feedstock production, they focus on use of marginal land. They focus on innovation in creating these energy crops that are much more robust than edible crops. So they don't use the arable land, as they call it. They use only marginal land.
Sure. Okay. And so you said it's got to be affordable. It's got to be available. They're the 2 big items in this, aren't they? You know. Again, just go back to what Willie Walsh at IATA has been saying for a number of years now. The numbers are somewhat eye-watering as things stand, because SAF is being mandated, but it's simply not available.
Right.
And he does often draw a distinction between what's going on in the US, your home, and Europe, where in the US there appears to be an approach, more of a carrot approach, where people are being encouraged and incentivized to get into this area and to grow the capacity. In Europe, a bit more of a stick approach is happening. You know, both of those kind of work, but we'll see. It doesn't change the fact that there's not enough of this about.
100%.
And time is ticking. So
absolutely.
So what is CleanJoule doing that you think can turn that around and make sure that we get anywhere near our targets or the targets that the industry has set itself?
So we have 2 or 3 fundamental distinctions from the erstwhile art in SAP production and us. We make inherently superior molecules now that contain more energy per unit volume. This is a very important point. Aeroplanes fly on megajoules. They don't fly on volume, they don't fly on kilos, they fly on megajoules. We put 10% extra megajoule in the same liter of fuel that you would be buying at an airport. So that's attribute number 1. Attribute number 2, we have superior ultra cold flow properties. So you can go further up in air now. You're not limited by a band.
Right.
You go further up, reduce drag, enhanced efficiency by another 10%.
Okay.
So combination of those two with a cost-effective manufacturing process gives us accelerated commercialization prospect. So we are already within span of last 2 years, we went from a small pilot plant to a full industrial demonstration plant where we make multi-metric ton, thousands of gallons of fuel that is currently being tested in engines. And we are on our way to set up our first commercial manufacturing unit, which will then form the blueprint of having these manufacturing plants everywhere. So once you go from the bottom of the hockey stick, you can multiply these manufacturing plants everywhere in the world because feedstock is available everywhere.
So like what you're saying, the current position on your journey is that you're in test with a number of airlines. This fuel is flying, but it's not yet sort of commercially available in that sense. It's not pushed out. What timescales are we talking about then?
So we are currently going through a approval process called ASTM International Approval to be able to sell the fuel commercially. We can do limited engine testing, we can do specifically permitted flights, but to be able to fly on a commercial jetliner, we need that permission from the qualification body called ASTM International, which is a qualification process pretty standard. We are well on our way. By end of this year, we should have that qualification process. Then you will see over 2026, 2027, a number of demonstration flights in partnership with our investor airlines, in partnership with major OEMs that are very active in the space. And the first commercial manufacturing plant starts producing in 2029.
Okay, 2029. So just before 2030 is a key date for some of these targets to be hit. Are we on, do you think, I think we know the answer. We're not on track, are we, to meet those 2030, 2050 targets? And I think there's a mood in the industry to say that let's be more honest about when we can actually start to hit these very, very ambitious targets. Where do you think we are as an industry? Do you think something like this could happen and suddenly start to happen once you get certification and so on, and it starts to ramp up? Is this something that can happen then quickly once you've got to that stage?
I agree with part of the notion that you specified. I mean, we have to be ambitious. That's number one, right? As a human race, if you're not doing better the next day than the previous day, then we kind of lost the future.
Aim for further than you can get to.
That's exactly right. That's number one. But I do believe there is opportunity for governments around the world and private industry to co-invest in making the capital available. You can't say, oh, I have to make 79% return this year, and I would rather put my money into junk bonds, and then you're not buying the future. You're just relying on the past. So if governments and industry around the world is looking to bridge the gap on capital expenditure that needs to go into this industry, we will not miss the target by far. We will be coming very close to 80% of our ambition, but that requires tens of $billions in capital investment, not only in us, but in other players, because we are fundamentally altering the entire business of aviation. 75 years of jet AUs, we haven't changed a thing about it.
That is the affordability side of it, which brings us on to an interesting discussion about who's invested in you guys. So that's the other thing that is obviously talked about, the cost of this. I mean, it's many, many more times than what the aviation industry makes in net profits every year just to get to net zero by 2050. So you look at those figures and think, well, it can't happen. Where's the money going to come from? Except for what you were just saying, and some sort of incentivization, so that companies can invest for the future and they know they're going to get returns. Do you think that can happen? Is it happening today? Maybe it's happening in the US, not so much in other parts of the world. Where do you think we are in general as an industry on that?
Oh, in general, okay. So if you look at, if you compare SAF with Jet A, other than our SAF that promises to be cost competitive with Jet A at commercial scale, 2029, SAF by and large requires new hardware. Petroleum has 150 years of jump start over SAF. Jet A has a 75 years of jump start. That industry, I'm talking about oil and gas, the industry that supplies Jet A into flying our planes, incredibly efficient. They have had number of governments around the world spend trillions of dollars in developing oil fields, in developing their infrastructure. All of that is given to you. Whereas in SAF, you have to start from bottom floor. That's why I say, as long as governments and private industry make the capital available, because that's the unfair competition. Unfair competition is not in cost of manufacturing as in operational cost of manufacturing. The unfair advantage petroleum has is sunk capital that has been paid for 10 times over. I have to set up new capital. That capital has to come from somewhere. As long as that does, we will be cost competitive and cost effective to supply SAF everywhere in the world.
Is the process that you're developing, is the answer to this that there's many ways of creating SAF? We've spoken to companies that are developing ways of making SAF from household waste, for instance. I think there's other companies out there that are looking at using human waste. Any kind of waste, I guess, it's got potential to be recycled in an industry that is about, or a world which is more about the recycling of stuff. So is the answer that there's the CleanJoule way of doing things, but there's many, many others, so there's a lot of answers out there? Is that how you see the future?
Absolutely. This is not a winner-take-all world. It's a 100 billion gallon. If you just viscerally think about the amount of Jet A we buy as an industry every year, 100 billion gallons, that's 380 billion liters annually, and it's only going to go up from here. It's going to go to 160 billion gallons to 210 billion gallons. Those are IATA's projections. So 60% to 110% growth from here. The real number is somewhere in between. Let's split the difference, 80% growth from here. Petroleum is actually not going to grow by that much. Just think about it. Petroleum is a balanced world for last 15 years and it will remain to be balanced. Where is my Jet A going to come from? That's a fundamental question because the barrel has only 10% kerosene in it. Everything else is other hydrocarbons. So you talk about surface transport going electric. Your car, my car becomes electric. You don't have a reason to buy gasoline or petrol. That's why the whole industry must win because it's not only about sustainability, but it's also about availability and affordability of where it is being produced and where it is being supplied. Our pathway is the most efficient that we know mathematically and what the work we have done, but there should be more than one winners.
And like you said, the three investor airlines are all, you call them ultra low cost. I think you said ultra low cost, aren't they?
They are ultra low cost, yes.
Wizz certainly and so on. So they're looking, and they have to look for the most cost effective ways of doing everything, never mind fueling an aircraft, but they do it in every aspect. We know that because margins are so tight in that sector. So obviously that's of interest there that you've got these three airlines investing in CleanJoule because they see the potential for their sector and for the economics to work for them.
Absolutely. Because of combination of ultra efficient manufacturing process. So if they are ultra low cost carriers, we are ultra efficient manufacturer. We have, in addition to that, the point I made earlier was 10% higher energy content in our Jet A on a gallon basis. And our Jet A allows you to fly even further higher than where you fly, which will give you additional efficiency. And because we contain more energy, your MTOW can be now less because you load up less fuel than you would have otherwise carried. So your takeoff weight goes down,
Yeah.
you get further efficiency benefits. So in nutshell, you're talking about north of 20% efficiency.
Yeah, there's multiple wins there, and when you layer on the more efficient engines and more efficient aircraft that are coming through anyway, it's a huge win for these guys.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Look, our time's nearly up, but let's just put a bit of crystal ball thinking onto this. It's 25. You said you were in Farnborough last year. You were at Paris 2 years ago.
Yes.
These events happen every other year for the Paris event. When do you think we'll be sat here looking forward, sat here talking about SAF being, the predominant way that airlines aircraft are fueled? Is that within reach now, do you think? And while I think you suggested we are going to see a ramping up as long as all the factors are in place. But let's say we're here, in 4-6 years' time. What do you think? How do you think the debate will be changing in that time?
Yeah, I mean the hardest part is to predict the most near future and the most farthest future. But on the intermediate journey, let's call it 2040, 2050. We would have significant adoption by then of SAF in our fuel pool, and by significant, I mean more than 50% of it.
Yeah. Is SAF and is fueling aircraft like the way we do with a fuel that we burn the future? There's going to be there's going to be exhibitors here this week with electric powertrains and going down that route. Again, is that just part of a mix of solutions, or do you think there could be a complete paradigm change? Is that in the future we don't use fuel as we know it today to power aircraft?
For the longest time, we will continue using liquid hydrocarbons that are energy dense.
Yeah.
Now they better be produced sustainably if we care about the planet and care about the cost of flying. The electric or hydrogen or other forms of propulsion, altogether different propulsion that people talk about, those have substantially higher barrier to entry for two different reasons. Let's talk about electric, short range. Batteries have substantially reduced energy content compared to liquid dense hydrocarbons. So you will never do long haul flight ever. There is a limitation from physics.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
Right.
So the scientific limitation, it's you can project all day long and draw beautiful charts and PowerPoints. We are in the business of manufacturing real fuel, not PowerPoints, right? And so electric is going to miss the boat. Where electric will succeed is short haul. I think the helicopter, as we know it, will be replaced with electric transport, 100%.
We'll see loads of those here.
That's exactly right. And then on something like hydrogen, where people perpetrate, the cost of adoption of hydrogen on the infrastructure side, it's so massive. And whose cost is it anyway? Right? And who is willing to step up to do infrastructure adoption? So I'm not even going to get into the safety aspects, do you feel comfortable flying on it? Do I feel, I don't, but people, maybe they feel comfortable on flying a hydrogen jet. However, the infrastructure adoption costs and who pays for it is absolutely massive. And there is no way in this century you will see that being adopted.
This is the easier route to go down.
Absolutely.
For many reasons.
Our industry cares about safety, and it cares about not changing almost anything, right? And not changing almost anything comes from drop-in. What is drop-in? You make liquid hydrocarbons that are identical to today's Jet A in flow. You use the pipes, tubes, the engines, the airframes. Nothing changes. That's the way to go sustainable.
That's the way to easily adopt. Final thought. We started off by talking about being on the Utah stand, US-based company. You're not from the US originally. You are from India.
Absolutely.
Huge growth potential in India for this sort of thing. Obviously, you're developing this in the US. It'll be a global solution, obviously in a short time. But do you also see some of this innovation happening in your home country, in your India, from your roots in India, or in places like China, Asia Pacific? Do you see that maybe there's going to be a because of the growing demand for aviation in those markets, that's where the push for innovation is going to happen potentially.
Oh, 100%. I think they have two problems. My home country and many of the APAC countries, so Asia Pacific, you have this tremendous growth in aviation because people are coming out of poverty in masses, and the first sign of have you come out of poverty is have you taken your first flight, right? I mean, it's very close to heart for a lot of people.
Yeah.
As
It's
it
a real
gets
status symbol.
That's exactly right. And the second piece of that then is they have substantial dependence on imported petroleum.
Yeah.
They don't have the luxuries that United States does of producing its own oil. So they have two for one. Now they have to reduce the import burden of petroleum. They also have this tremendous growth happening. And the third factor for them is everywhere you go, biomass is available as a feedstock. So it becomes domestic. It becomes about socio-economic development. There is this new industry. Now the lowest strata of economy can participate by virtue of working in that manufacturing sector, producing the fuel, working in logistics, getting it to the destinations, instead of just importing a couple of million barrels of tankers from Middle East or North Africa.
Well, it links an agricultural market, an agricultural sector with an industrial sector, with an international business growth sector. So it kind of links all the things that countries like India have a lot of.
It's unique link.
And people.
Absolutely. We when I was growing up, we had a question on my geography test. Name all the international airports in India, and there were 4.
Okay.
Now there are 45. There is no way I can remember 45 names anymore.
Yeah.
And think about it.
And many more planned.
And many more planned. Absolutely. That's logarithmic growth. China now has 200 international airports.
Wow.
I mean, imagine the growth potential.
You don't really realize
in these countries.
The extent sitting in the West, I don't think.
Absolutely. It's
something of a surprise.
Yes. To use our industry's word, it's taking off, and it's taking off with full force.
Yeah.
So.
Look, Mukund, our time's up, but thanks for that really fascinating discussion.
Oh.
We wish you all the best, obviously.
Thank you so much.
I hope you have a good Paris Air Show.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you do too.
Thank you.